Thank you. I'll call the meeting to order. It's a meeting of the Town of Norton Zoning Board of Appeals. We have a few items on the agenda tonight. Just for the record, as we get started, if anybody is in attendance, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but the application for 40B for 253 Mansfield Ave, they've requested, again, a continuance till the January meeting. Is that right, Paul?
Correct.
Okay. So if anybody's here for 253 Mansfield Ave, we will not be taking it up substantively tonight. We'll just open it. Well, we'll continue it tonight. That's the last item on the agenda anyway. Just wanted to let people know. The other 40B, 195 Mansfield Ave will be discussed. Okay. This is a public meeting of the Norton Town of Norton Zoning Board of Appeals. It's being held pursuant to the emergency orders of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts during the COVID-19 crisis, permitting remote participation meetings. This meeting will be by visual means and audio-visual means. The posted web access for this meeting has been posted on the agenda, as is a telephone number, and I see there are several people who are called in by phone, it appears. And the number to call in 646-558-8656, meeting ID 638-929-1060. And if you have other questions that you would like to ask the board, we'd ask you to participate by audio means anyway. If not, Mr. DiGiuseppe's email is on the notice of meeting as well. You can contact him during the meeting as well. This is going to be available as early as tomorrow on the Norton Cable Access website for anyone wishing to review it. We'll get the meeting started at 7:06. First matter, the property address is 176 South Washington Street. The applicant is Carroll Advertising. The owner is listed as PIP1 Norton LLC. The applicant seeks relief to allow billboard within 500 feet of a residential structure and to allow billboard within 2 feet of the side and rear yard setback. And if this is familiar to some of us, it's because we took this matter up and cited the electronic billboard sign at the last in-person public meeting that we had back in February, before the COVID emergency was declared. Tonight we have, again, Carroll Advertising is the listed applicant, and it appears that Carroll Advertising is applying for permission to move the billboard slightly toward 495 because they've acquired some other property. Who is going to be speaking for the applicant, Carroll Advertising?
John Carroll and Dan Merrican as necessary, sir.
Thank you. I see you, Mr. Carroll. You were with us last February too, is that right?
Yes, sir.
I think you had counsel, but I'm not sure. Applicant seeks the following relief. Seeks a variance from section 175-8.4 to allow proposed billboard to be located closer than 500 feet to a residential structure. We dealt with that variable and with the 2 feet or 2 feet some inches off the rear property line at that time. Am I reading the application correctly that you've acquired a parcel or you're going to acquire a parcel?
It's been acquired, sir.
Okay, and that is the parcel that was in between your parcel and 495, correct?
Correct.
And was that parcel subdivided prior to the acquisition? Has that been done?
Well, yeah, it's I'll let Dan speak to it, but just a quick overview. We were going to just carve out a piece. We're going to move the billboard a little closer to 495 and farther away from the residential structure. This would allow us to cut fewer trees and have a better sight line, and I believe it would be an improvement for the original approval. So I don't anticipate that there'll be any issues, but it became sort of how we deed the property to meet the frontage requirements and whatnot. So I'll let Dan speak to that, but we had to do it a certain way in order to comply, because tomorrow night we'll be on the planning board for the, if things go well tonight, we'll hopefully get their blessing to move it. And we had to meet certain frontage requirements and,
Right.
and lot size requirements.
So the A&R has not gone through yet.
No, it has.
It has, but you're before the planning board again tomorrow night?
Dan?
For the special permit modification. Mr. Chairman, Dan American with Legacy Engineering. I could share a plan with you that would just make it easier, I think.
Could you get a little closer to the mic, Mr. American, if possible? You're a little bit distant.
I could share a plan if that's okay with you.
Better, yes, thank you.
This is basically what you approved back in February, which was on the property that is 3 Lopes Drive here. In the adjacent property, there's an existing non-conforming single-family home owned by the same owner that owns these 2 properties. And you approved this billboard to be here. You granted a variance to allow the billboard to be 380 feet from that non-conforming structure. We meet that 1,000 feet to the nearest conforming residential structure, which is over here on Washburn Street. And then for that billboard to be 2.2 feet off property lines, so that it could be as close to 495 as possible. What has happened is Mr. Carroll has acquired this piece of land right here between 3 Lopes Drive and 495.
Mm-hmm.
So an A&R has been prepared and endorsed, and the land in question has been deeded to the owner of 3 Lopes Drive. So what we'd like to do, so right now this whole piece, it was deeded Friday. This whole piece is now owned by the same owner as 3 Lopes Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a single lot here that goes from Lopes Drive all the way to 495. And what Mr. Carroll very simply wants to do is to take that billboard and move it 60 feet back, closer to 495. So that will reduce the variance, if you will. It'll increase the distance from the billboard to the non-conforming residential structure from 380 feet to 430 feet. We have the proposed billboard 2 feet off the lot line, which is very similar to what we had the last time. So the discussion is really the same, exactly the same as was had in February, except that, we have a lesser variance, if you will, to that existing non-conforming structure.
Okay, so just for the record, this is a commercial zone, and
Yes.
the residence at 3 Lopes is owned by the same owner. The structure is owned by the same owner, correct?
Correct.
So there's obviously no objection there, and this would put it some 50 feet further from that non-conforming residential structure in a commercial zone, right?
Correct.
You're essentially sliding it closer to 495 in its approximate present location?
Exactly. We're just pushing it directly towards 495, about 60 feet or so.
Do you do that with a crane? I mean, what's required here? I'm just curious.
Well, they'll disassemble the board, they'll take it down in parts, and then they'll pour a new foundation, a new footing for it, and then they'll just reassemble the board back on the new foundation.
Okay, members, well, I think I'm not sure which members sat on the decision last February, but a question from members of the board? Could you take the plan down now?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks. Unless anybody wants it up from the board. For the record, Mr. Tenore is here and Mr. Wren is here. Mr. Booley is here. Is Mr. Wozniak present? I don't see Mr. Wozniak, but Mr. Wren and Mr. Tenore and I will be the voting members on the application, on the matters tonight. David or Jim?
How far is it off the line from 495? Is it going to be now?
2 feet.
2 feet?
2 feet.
And that's what it was before, though, right?
We had it at 2.2 feet off the property line before, so it's very similar. I could make it 2.2 feet if you wanted me to, but I've got it at 2.0 feet.
That boundary is not the asphalt of 495.
No, that's-
Obviously, there's a
No.
right of way. How big is the right of way about there? Just
It's
between the fence and the
it's a
pavement
couple
of
hundred feet.
495, yeah.
You can see the circle here, right? So that circle is 500 feet. So that right of way is probably 300 feet wide.
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, they're very big.
And I looked at the last decision that we did just before times, before COVID, and we had some language in the decision saying that the vertical drop of the edge of the sign, is not going to be is going to be at no closer than the 2 feet that was requested at that time.
Yeah, I saw that language, and yeah, the position of the sign is the key for the setback. It's the monopole can really be positioned anywhere on the sign. It's really just a question of convenience of construction for the applicant. It's the edge of the sign structure that's the closest point to the property line that determines the setback.
And that's what I was saying, that language would be repeated in this decision as well.
Yes.
So the two variances are the proximity to the house on a non-conforming house because it's a commercial zone, and then distance from the boundary line. It's really the same that we had last February. I'm not sure there's much of a difference in. It's the same exact sign and construction going there. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Questions, David or Jim?
I don't really think I have any.
And me either.
Can I ask if anybody is in attendance in opposition to the application as filed? Hearing none for the record. Anybody else want to speak in favor of the application? Okay. Thank you, Mr. American and Mr. Carroll.
Thank you.
Members, no other questions. I don't think there are any other issues. Could have been done this way, a year ago, 10 months ago, just wasn't. And the land's been acquired and they have to go before the planning board. I would suggest a motion permitting the application mirroring the language that we used from our February decision, and I'm forgetting the date of that. Actually, I printed it out somewhere, but it would just mirror that with the new plans, the new aerial shot, and the plans, and mirroring the decision with the new dimensions. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Jim will second.
Okay, we have to do a roll call vote. Mr. Wren, do you vote in favor of closing the public hearing?
Yes.
Mr. Tenore
Yes.
and Mr. Noel votes yes as well. Just for discussion, I probably should have said this before. The plans, the actual engineered plans, well, I shouldn't put it that way. The non-aerial photo plans actually don't show the distance to the house, but the aerial photo does, and the dimensions are on that aerial photo. I'm going to be including the 3 plan sheets that have been provided for clarity, which will be part of the decision as well. So is there a motion to approve the application as filed, the terms of which can mirror the decision from last February, except as appear on the new plan of record?
I'll make that motion.
Jim will second.
Without further discussion, Mr. Wren, how do you vote on the motion to approve?
I go to approve, yes.
Mr. Tenore?
Yes, I vote to approve.
And Mr. Noel votes to approve as well. Okay, we will draft it up and include the new plans and get it posted. Thank you for coming back to us.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. 7:18, we will move on to the next item, which is posted for 7:05. appeal of building inspector's decision. Property address is 20 Eisenhower Drive. The applicant is Michael Bisceglia. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Mr.
Bisceglia, sir.
Bisceglia?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. At whose address is 22 Eisenhower Drive. However, the application is to overturn building commissioner's action or decision concerning 20 Eisenhower Drive, which is immediately adjacent to Mr. Bisceglia. Is that correct?
Yes.
This is an R40 zone, and it appears to be an undersized lot with 18,000 plus or minus square feet. The date property acquired, January of 2007, was that your property, Mr. Bisceglia, or the property at issue?
The property at issue.
Okay. I'll summarize and then give Mr. Bisceglia a chance to speak and correct anything that I've said, and also, of course, the owners of the property next door are with us as well. So everyone will get a chance to speak. The gist of this, however, is that there was at one point an existing shed on the location at the property. We'll get into whether it was torn down or removed or the extent to which it was in a few minutes. And the owner at 20 Eisenhower Drive has been starting to construct a replacement structure there that is somewhat bigger. And I understand that the facts are all not agreed to at this point. The building commissioner had issued a permit in September and then suspended the permit. And Mr. Bisceglia then filed an appeal of the building commissioner's decision and activity. Is that right at its core, Mr. Bisceglia?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll note that I have a couple of questions about the record that we have in the file, but I'm going to ask the other board members to chime in and ask whatever questions come to them as well. And Mr. and Ms. Buccieri, is that the pronunciation of your name?
Yep, Buccieri.
Thank you. Okay, we'll get to you in just a minute.
Yep.
But first, we're going to try to piece together the record and ask your neighbor a few questions. There is a letter here to us, the Norton Zoning Board of Appeals. What's the date of that letter? There's no date on the copy that I have. Mr. Bisceglia, do you know?
November 12th.
November 12th? Okay. And did you attach to that a photo of a phone text stream? Or
Yeah, I believe so, yes. Yeah.
I didn't know where this came from. The phone text stream that I got starts off with KA and something S at the top and the time of 9:29 on that text. Is that something you submitted, sir?
Yes, that's my wife, Carrie, and Sandy, who lives next door.
Okay. So KA is Carrie, your wife?
Yes.
Okay. Then we have a email stream between Mr. Carmichael and the Basalias. That's several pages long, went back and forth a few times in September and October, and perhaps into November as well. What I don't have, however, well, let me go through what we do have first of all. To the applicant, Mr. Basalia, was there anything else that you submitted that's in the record, or did these papers all come from other sources? Do you know?
That's everything that we've submitted.
Okay, I'm going to do this as best I can. Paul, I don't know if you can call it up if you want to, but I have a plan that is stated from January of 07, mortgage inspection plan. Paul, do we know who submitted this?
We had submitted the Morgan's inspection plan before we got our yard surveyed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, then Ms. Bucieri, I'll ask you, was this what you presented to the building inspector, building commissioner, Mr.
Yep.
Carmichael?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
There's typewritten red writing at the top.
Yep.
Is that yours?
That was mine
And when was that added to the document?
when we did the permit.
Well, when you first got the permit?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Chair, I do have that if you want me to share it.
Well, if you can post it, sure, just to take a look at so everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Okay, can you see that?
I can. I see the top half of it anyway. I don't know if you can scroll. It doesn't, I'm not calling attention to it any more than, identifying what I'm asking about. But this is what I was talking about. It's, there are some handwritten and then there are some typewritten entries in red. And at the bottom, it says it's a mortgage inspection plan dated 1/8/07. And this is of the Bucieri's property, correct? Ms. Bucieri?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just to be clear, when was all the red added?
When I had applied for the permit?
This current permit that we're talking about now?
Yes. And then once Chris decided we should go forward and get actual plot plan done,
Okay,
like an up-to-date one, instead of using the mortgage inspection plan from 07.
Right.
I don't have the full building inspector's file. We don't have the full building inspector's file, the members don't. And I was having a little trouble piecing together where these things came from in the order. So that's what I'm asking about right now. And I'm gonna have to hold up another piece of paper or two. Ms. Bucieri, there's an affidavit from Sandra Bucieri
Yep.
dated September 15.
Yes.
Is this when you first applied for the building permit?
Yes, because we had a prior shed, and he wanted me to provide an affidavit saying the shed had been there previously, and it hadn't been knocked down within the past 2 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you tell us exactly when the shed was knocked down or demolished or taken apart?
It was knocked down, was it a week before that?
Okay. There's another photograph that's in the file. I'm gonna hold that up as well. Did you take this, Ms. Bucieri or Mr. Bucieri?
That's our old shed.
Okay.
Yeah, it was falling down.
Okay, it has a date of August 15. Is that this August 15th of 2020?
Yeah, that's when I took the picture.
This year?
Yes,
Okay, so this is what was there before.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is also in the file. Did that have a concrete pad beneath it? It looks like it did.
Yes, it did.
Okay. Is that old concrete pad still there in place?
It's under the new concrete we had poured.
Okay,
So the pad, it was before we bought the house. We bought the house in 07. And so that was already there. And I think it said it was in 72 was written in the concrete. So it's an old shed
okay.
for where.
You didn't construct the shed then?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay. The issues that I'm seeing here are a few to the board members, and I want to ask some questions so that we at least get answers. I don't know if we can dispose of this tonight, one way or the other. But this is a non-conforming lot, non-conforming use. The shed apparently was 3.5 feet off the side property line. I don't know when that was first established, though. I also don't know if this was a pre-existing non-conforming use. That's why I'm asking these questions as to when it was put there, who put it there, and what do we know. So please jump in with any questions that you have as well, to board members. Ms. Bucieri, you said that there's a date that's imprinted into the old pad or slab?
Yeah, there was, but you can't see it anymore because we had a new slab poured over the existing slab.
So you bought the house in 07?
Yeah,
And the shed, whatever it was, and pad or slab was there?
yes, it was.
Did you take any pictures of the date in the pad?
I don't think so.
Okay. Mr. Bisalia, if I can return to you for a second. I'm sorry to go back and forth. When approximately did you purchase your residence?
It was 2 years ago, 2018, July 6th, I believe is the closing.
Okay. Was the shed in the condition that's in the picture now, or was it in a different condition?
No, it was completely freestanding, fine, no deterioration of any kind.
But you don't.
It looked like a normal shed. So
You don't have any information of when the shed was constructed, is that right, Mr. Bisalia?
I don't, sir. No.
Okay. I'm noting that the mortgage inspection plan that we looked at a few minutes ago has a shed drawn in. Well, it's marked in and it's labeled as shed. And then in red type, it's printed 3.5 feet. Apparently that's the distance from that shed to the side property line. Ms. Bucieri or Mr. Bucieri, did you determine the distances that you typed in here on red?
Yeah, we had done it. And then we went and got a proper survey done by a licensed person.
Yep, that's also in the record, and we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But you came up with the numbers that are here on the mortgage plan, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if I can ask the Bucieris, what is your intention with the building that you are constructing?
Just a larger shed because we have jet skis and we have quads and we have 2 boys and they have Power Wheels and lots of toys that boys have. So we don't have any room in the house for it or the garage.
Part of the concern, I'm sorry, you don't have another garage. Is that what you just said? You don't have
We
a
have a
garage?
garage attached to our house, yes. But we need a spot for all the kids' Power Wheels and the toys and a lawnmower and the other shed just was not large enough for, the ride-on lawnmowers that they have.
Is the garage attached to the house? Is that part of the plan that you just had done in October?
Yes.
Is it on the, which side of the house is it on? The same as the shed or the opposite?
Same
Yes, sir.
side.
Same
Oh.
side of the shed.
It's just not labeled here, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it kind of pops out a little bit in the back.
Is there a driveway going back to the shed area?
No, we have a full fenced-in yard.
Fenced in yard, I'm sorry, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. One of the concerns voiced to the building commissioner was that the structure was going to be used for the repair of vehicles.
no, the doorways aren't big enough and we have a garage for that if we need to.
Okay.
Can I just get back to the pad real quick, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman?
Sorry, yeah, Jim, yes.
So, do you guys know the dimension of the pad that was there before alteration?
It was a 10 by 10.
It was a 10 by 10.
Yep.
And the pad that's there now after alteration is,
It's 16 by 20.
Well, and then we added 2 feet.
Then we
moved
added
it
2
over.
feet because we moved it over. Now it's 5 feet from the property line.
So when you say you added 2 feet, you added 2 feet so you could move it over 2 feet.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So there's another 2 feet of pad that's near the neighbor's property line, but it's just concrete.
It's
Yes.
just concrete, yep.
And there's a fence there.
so I would assume that would have been on the 16 side. So it's now an 18 by 20?
Yes. But the structure is 16.
Right, but yeah, I'm just talking the pad. I just want to get a sense of what the pad is.
It can always be cut off if there was a concern.
Yeah, and so that is now moved to 5 feet off the property line.
Yes, we got a new plot plan.
Yep.
It's almost 5 1/4 and 4 1/2 on the backside. It's actually closer on the backside.
You're referring to the plan by Charette Land Surveying dated October 16?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And-
But is that 5.19 and 4.42 to the edge of the pad or the edge of the structure?
The structure.
So the pad is within those measurements.
Yep. So he wrote offsets to dwelling and shed taken from wood siding
Right.
because we had to move the structure over 2 feet.
Okay.
So you're not really 5 feet. You're
We're 5 feet for the structure,
Yes.
and
Right.
and then we have 2 feet of concrete just sitting there.
right. So your concrete pad is
Yeah.
really 3 feet 19 inches on the front end, and
Yes.
2
Yes.
feet
2.5
2 inches on the back.
Yep. Just like the original, the
Yeah.
first plot plan we got.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's considered a structure at the town bylaw. That's why Mr. Tenori is asking, right, Jim?
Yeah, correct.
That's part of a structure. So that's pertinent information.
I ask a quick question. Why did you move it over 2 feet? Just to,
Because when we originally went and measured ourselves in the red, the marker both neighbors had originally agreed on that was the marker.
Yeah.
It wasn't. So when we went and had the plot plan done, we realized it was our error. We measured incorrectly. We went to the wrong marker that's in the woods. And so we moved it over to be in accordance with the permit we had filed with Chris.
Sorry, I didn't follow that. You agreed to be where with Mr. Visalia?
So there's a marker in our woods
Yes.
that's on the other side of our fence that we have all agreed that was originally the lot line. So when we went and measured originally for the permit, we thought that was the lot line, but then come to find out when we had the plot plan done, it was the lot line is in a little bit, but it's still on the other side of our fence. So when we realized we were wrong in our measurements, we went and had 2 more feet of forms done, had the concrete poured, and then took the structure and moved it over the 2 feet.
Okay, is there a structure on it right now above the
There is.
pad?
There
What
is
is there now?
everything but doors.
So it's reconstructed
Yep.
in a 16 by 20 foot area?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Mr. Carmichael gave a building permit, but then didn't he suspend it at one point?
He did when I submitted the original, the plot plan that was done on October 1st to show that I wasn't 3.5 feet from the lot line.
Mhm.
So he suspended it and said, you need to move it over. So we moved it over 2 feet to make sure that we were 100% within the 3.5 spacing from the lot line. And then once we moved it over, I sent him the new plot plan and he said that we can proceed with building.
Do you have those communications with the town?
I do. I had sent it to Nick.
Well, I have one email stream and I
Sure.
don't think I have your communications with Mr. Carmichael or the town itself,
Okay.
whoever they were with. So I'm going to ask that those be submitted. Members, David and Alan and Jim, I'm having trouble with a couple of things because if this was done on an oral basis, I think we should know that. If it was done in writing, Mr. Carmichael had issued formal letters to people before or emails, but I want to see what was said about what was going on and what was found there, because the timing and the exact instructions are important here. I think maybe the Bucciaris might have enough to establish that it's a pre-existing non-conforming use. I mean, we don't have any information to the contrary, apparently. Pre-existing to implementation of zoning. I was concerned about that as well. But if it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, that informs our discussion and decision, because if it wasn't, then it would have to be moved to 10 feet. If it's pre-existing, we need to know where it was. And I don't have, I'd like to see the communications between the town and the Bucciaris
Sure.
before we go further. I'm talking to board members.
Oh, sorry.
David, Jim.
I mean, I guess my concern is, and I'm wondering, because I took a look at the zoning bylaw, like, so I guess if their slab 10 by 10 wasn't altered and you tear down the shed and you rebuild it, I guess in my eyes, you could say that's pre-existing, right? Because you have to alter the pad. But once you alter that pad, it is now not pre-existing, because now you're making a new structure, at least in my eyes right now. I want to see, I'd like to see Chris's communications. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, and maybe, with the discussion, I could be moved another way, but I would view it as, once you altered that pad, you made it a new building.
Well, and another way to look at it is the old pad is still there. So it's still there. Why couldn't they build on it, even though it was closer than 3.5 feet? It is what it was. They didn't move it closer. What I'm hearing is they learned that it was closer than they thought, so they pushed it over 2 feet to be at 3.5 feet, which is fine. That's better, of course.
Right.
But I think we need to know what the town wanted them to do right now. And so I think we have to ask Paul or whomever, Paul, to get us the building inspector's file on the property, 20 Eisenhower, and have that for the next meeting. David, Jim, do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. I guess I'm with Jim in that by building the larger cement structure, which is, I guess you're going from 100 feet to 320 square feet, correct? Which is 16 by,
Well, that's another issue.
right? I think that's, because that's obviously more than 25% increase. So,
Well, that's another issue, but I want to ask council about that because the bylaw says 25% increase in, I think it says habitable space, although I'm just doing that from memory.
yeah, I think it actually does not enlarge the volume caused by the building.
Sorry, David?
Yeah, it says, it actually reads, I'm reading 175, 1.5D.
Go ahead.
Not that, or to such damage, and that the reconstruction does not allow the volume enclosed by the building by more than 25%. Or make the building dimensionally more non-conforming.
Well, I think we have to see the communications. I think we have to ask council what 25% increase in what? It says habitable floor area, habitable. I'm not sure that a shed is habitable. But then again, remember we talked about this before, an accessory structure to the prime use is considered a residence, isn't it? I think,
Right.
This is not a residence, obviously.
Right.
But,
So I was thinking 1.5 is applicable, not 1.6. Because now we're talking about a building.
sorry, 1.5? Okay.
Because 1.6 is the cost of residential. That's how I'm looking at 1.5D.
Yeah, they all are relevant. They all apply, I think. But I think we.
Yeah, no, I guess I was, but I think you were reading from 1.6, I believe it's Jim.
I was. Yeah, I don't know if Jim was, but I was looking at 1.6. So at this point, is construction going on?
No, we stopped when we spoke with Nick about the appeal.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
we haven't touched it since. We just put tarps on the doorways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I don't think anything is going to change significantly between now and the January 6th meeting. Jim, David, and I'd request that we have Paul or Nicole get us the Mr. Carmichael's file on this, including the communications, and ask the Bucciaris to give us what they have as well, because I'm not sure, how good we are at getting our emails.
Before we wrap this, can I ask just one more question?
Of course.
So
Go
I
ahead.
did see somewhere, and I'm trying to find it in that Dropbox, but there was something I read that I think the neighbors suggested that there was a driveway going to the shed, and I could be totally wrong. Again, I'm trying to find.
Yeah.
In all
In
the
the email chain, that's why I asked the Bucciaris if there was a paved driveway going to the shed. Mr. Basilia, you wrote that email, or your wife did?
Yeah, so there's not a paved driveway. There is a new driveway, compacted with crushed stone, and it leads up to a fence area that could easily be removed and a gate added. And there also is a what we believe to be the opening of an overhead door size that would be concurrent to a garage door opening.
So along that, Mr. Chairman, can we request current photos of what's there now?
We can. It's up to the applicant, the petitioner, or the Bucciaris, we can't make them, but I would ask the same thing. Yeah, I'd like to see it.
I'd like to see what's current there now.
I would too. I mean, I would ask what size opening is there. I saw there was a kind of an oversized opening on the old shed structure, but that's not unusual. I don't know if that's a garage door size or not. So I understand the Mr. Basilia, the neighbor's concern. We're just trying to get this right and do what we need to do according to the bylaws, to both the petitioner and the Bucciaris. Clearly you have a disagreement, but we go by what the bylaws say to do. So we're trying to work it out under what we understand to be the framework there. I would ask that you, Mrs. Bucciari, give us the emails or letters that you have from the town. We don't have an official a letter here from Mr. Carmichael. Maybe there's an email, maybe there's a letter. I'm just not sure. Give us what you have, if you can.
Yep, the email I have stating the size increase was approved. I had sent it to Nick.
Okay,
Because
well,
he said he wasn't able to find it, but I can certainly send it to whoever needs it.
well, Paul DiGiuseppe is the planning director, and he can funnel it. He can funnel it to us. And Mr. Visalia, I'd ask you the same thing. If there's anything else that you want to show us, just submit a photo. I'd suggest that, I'm not cutting off the questions or the discussion here, but I'd suggest that we have to put this off to the meeting, which is January, what is it, Paul, 6th or later?
The 6th.
It is the 6th, okay. And continue this till the meeting of the 6th, and then have a look at, whatever else we can find in the file. Jim, Dave, do you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's winter. I don't think there's a great hardship to anybody to just holding where they are at this point. And we'll resolve it hopefully at the next meeting. I would like to ask council what habitable space means too in an accessory structure. It's not clear to me if that applies. So there are a number of issues that I want to sort of dig into a little bit. Mr. Visalia, I started off talking to you. Do you want to add anything else tonight? We're going to ask you to come back on January 6th and give us anything else you want to give us. If you have a photograph, we'll take that as well.
Yeah, so I believe that the photos you have are actually of the current structure, sir. So the what you're seeing as the garage door opening would be of the current structure.
I have one. Well, unless I didn't print out other photos, I'm sorry if I didn't. I have the one photo that was described from August 15th of the old structure before it was torn down.
Yeah, so that probably was not submitted by us.
No, that was submitted by the Bucciaris, correct. You submitted photos, Mr. Visalia?
Yes, to Mr. Paul DiGiuseppe over email correspondence, sir.
Okay. I don't have them in front of me right now. I will look for those in the file, or we'll get them if we don't have them currently in the files that the members have. We're all
Sir,
in different places, but yes, go ahead.
I do apologize. Those were submitted to Chris Carmichael in our rebuttal to his decision.
Oh,
So,
that's fine. That's exactly why we're asking to see the file, because we don't
yes, sir.
have, the members don't have all that sitting here tonight. We're in 4 different places here, and you're in a 5th, and everybody else is in their own home or office right now. So
Understood.
we want to get all that together. If you have a copy of that, Mr. Visalia, you can forward it to Mr. DiGiuseppe again, make it easy on us, and then Paul will put it all in the file or forward it to us in the meantime. That's what we're asking both of you at this point to do, and to return on January 6th. I would suggest that just make it 7:05 members. And again, if you have other questions at this time, David or Jim, go right ahead. I'm not trying to cut you off.
I don't think I have any more right now, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bucciari, do you have any other questions right now, or do you understand what we're looking for?
Yes.
You can communicate with Mr. DiGiuseppe. His email is on the agenda notice.
Okay.
And Mr. Visalia, same thing. If you can communicate with Paul DiGiuseppe and resend what you'd like us to see. Sure, it's in the file in town hall, but it doesn't always get parsed out and distributed to the extent that that we feel we need for this. Okay.
Sure.
Then is there a motion to continue this to January 6th meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to continue the meeting till January 6th at 7:05 p.m.
And we'll second.
Okay. Mr. Wren, how do you vote on your motion to continue?
I approve.
Mr. Tenori?
I approve.
And Mr. Noel votes as well. We have to take an oral roll call vote since we're doing this on camera. Seems silly to us too, but that's what the law says. Thank you very much for your attendance. We'll see you on January 6th, and we will look for whatever materials you can resend or provide. Okay? Thank you. This matter is now closed till January 6th, and we'll go on to the next matter on our agenda. Next matter is the continued hearing on the 40B comprehensive permit for 195 Mansfield Ave, the applicant owner AR Building Company and the Gus Nominee Trust. Applicant seeking relief to construct a 100-unit rental apartment building, including 25 affordable housing units. This was continued from our November meeting as well. I see Mr. Freeman is here. And Mr. Freeman, you have your team. And I see Ms. Barrett, Judy Barrett is with us, though not on camera right now. I think what we have since the last meeting is the draft decision, right, Peter? And that nothing else changed, although, Peter, turn your mic on. We also actually did get the new plan set last week with the updated plans. So the plan set, which is new to some extent, and also the draft decision, right, Peter?
That's correct.
Okay. And that decision, is this the first version we got was the November 3rd version, and then it was edited slightly and dated November 10th?
Two answers to that. I sent it on December 4th. It probably said drafted December 3rd. Literally sent it at about midnight, 12:06 a.m. on Friday, the 4th of December. What I was having trouble, although at least my email was working to send it to Paul and to Judy on December 4th, but I was having trouble saving it to just, be a draft that omitted, candidly, my internal revisions with my team. There was nothing per se that was bad or confidential, but we always copy and paste, and it was silly to send you a version that wasn't clean. So then I turned it into a PDF, which I thought wouldn't, be confusing. And that's what I sent. And somehow when Paul sent it back last week, and that's where the town hall apparently had email troubles because, Paul kept telling me that he had sent it, which I know he did, but it was never arriving. It was bizarre.
This is because it's just because it's 2020, Peter.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Everything that can go wrong might as well go wrong.
So I'm just asking, are there two versions, November 3rd?
Well, no, I'm sorry, it's a long answer, but I don't know the answer. There were, I guess, regardless of in what form you saw my version, there are a few red lines from Paul. Yes, I finally got that through a link on Friday, and a lot of them were, not real substantive. The one substantive thing was on the sidewalk condition, in terms of, how we would handle what happens if Mass DOT takes a long time to do it. And I sent in a new clause today, which Paul said he sent to you. So yeah, there are a few changes, and I'm sorry I took so long, but it's just, I wasn't sure what the benchmark was as to mine.
No, understood. I'm just asking for clarity purposes. Sure. I didn't compare the November 3 to November 10th, which I, could have done. It would have taken just a few minutes, but I didn't get that far. I don't know which version I printed out even at this point. I was just wondering if you made changes one week to the other. But I have a few questions anyway. Judy is here on camera as well.
Yes, sir.
And Judy, did you have a chance to go through these or this?
Yes, I'm trying to open it up actually right now, but yes, I did.
Okay, but this doesn't include your notes or suggestions, is that right? Does not include?
No, I don't believe it does.
Okay. Do you have suggestions or edits to pass along?
They were pretty minor, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to find, because with so many documents here,
Yep.
what is the date on the document you're looking at?
Well, that's a good question.
Okay,
It's either November 3 or November 10. I can give you the title.
It should be December unless there was a typo in my.
No, December, I apologize. That's my error just now.
Judy, if you can open up Paul's email, that unless you got it, okay, but on Friday, it was an email from Paul that had a link, and that's the only way that I have. I couldn't even
Got it.
save it properly.
I think
But
I
that
have
has
one.
that has Paul's red line from what I had sent.
Yes.
So those are Paul's edits?
Yes.
Okay. I have a couple of questions anyway. I've gone through and made some notes. It certainly looks like it's well on its way.
Mm-hmm.
But I have some questions. We can just go through it, page by page if you want. Take some time to do that now.
Sure.
Members, do you have the latest decision?
Is this Paul's red line, his markings? The 12-7 says 12-7 draft decision, PD?
I think that's what
That would be me, yep,
That-
that's mine.
That's
Okay.
what I have. That's what I
Yeah.
have. My screen. Yep.
Yeah, me too. We're good.
The only question I had is the revision that we got today, I believe, or yesterday regarding the sidewalk. Is that in that?
No, because I had trouble saving Paul's version, so I didn't bother to revise my document. To confuse you even more, I just sent that one clause.
Yep.
I actually ended up putting it in this afternoon in the
Oh.
Dropbox
Okay.
under my
Mhm.
revision, but we certainly can talk through that change as well.
Yeah, I mean, I read it. Not that I don't have a problem with it. I just didn't know if it was already incorporated. I couldn't find it, so I figured it probably wasn't because of the late emailing. But
Mhm.
Okay. My observation is it looks pretty complete, but I do have some questions and maybe some issues to talk about. So we can start going through it, and I'll just go and ask questions. I'll try to refer you to page numbers, numbered page numbers at the bottom of the pages, and we can, hear from Peter or hear from Judy or whoever else is here to speak up.
Sure.
And these aren't all the questions I have because it was, again, unclear as to versions. I have some language that I was going to add to it,
Mm-hmm.
subject to Peter's okay and Judy's okay, of course, but I would be doing that in the next few days. It's just a few things that I took from a past decision that we had done. I think it was Turtle Crossing I was working with, and there was some language in that looked pretty pertinent to what we're talking about here. Let me first of all, the date of this application, is this the one we were talking about last week, Paul? What's the date of the application? When does our 180 days expire?
We were just talking about this.
I don't have it right. Well, I can look. I can look
Yeah,
real quick.
I
It's
have it too.
January.
18?
Yeah, where is it?
I have it as January 21st. Is the deadline.
Okay.
I have January 18th.
Okay, well, we can clear that up. It's from the date of the application submittal, right? So that,
No, it's the date of the 180 days is from the date of the public hearing.
the date of the opening of the public hearing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So-
I have the 18th.
Paul, I think we compared notes about it the night the hearing opened,
I think it was
Yeah.
July 18th that we had a meeting, so.
July
Yeah.
22.
The application came in June 29th.
Okay,
So 180 days from the 29th is.
so Judy's saying it's 180 days from the opening of the
Opening of
hearing.
the hearing, Paul,
I'm sorry. Right. I'm sorry. The public hearing was July
22nd.
22nd.
But it's 180 days. It's not necessarily 6 months, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I literally sat here and Googled 180 days from today. then I reopened the hearing, so,
Well, we gotta clear that up.
yeah.
We have another meeting January 6th. I mean, I'll have changes to this, hopefully in the next week. As I said, there was some language here that I circled and yellowed out.
Mhm.
I don't have that tonight. So why don't we go through and ask some questions that any of us might have? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So basically the first group of pages is the decision itself, and then it attaches as exhibits the list of waivers and the list of conditions. And that's the way we've done it in the past. That's fine. A lot of this is the formalities of what's required, site control, listing out the particulars of what's planned, listing out the meeting. Oh, we have to list out the meeting dates that we've had.
Mhm.
There's a blank here. We have to have the hearing dates when we discussed it listed
Right.
here. Just a few language, typos and such, like I'll take care of. The first substantive thing is on page 6, Peter, condition number, Roman numeral 4, large A.
Yeah.
I'm confused. Why did we take out the number of each type of unit? Did we discuss that?
That's one of the ridiculous internal edits that, and again, there's nothing per se confidential. I was trying to draft it and wasn't 100% sure. And when I had drafted it, what you were supposed to see is, simply stating the mix of the types of units without the specific number. So again, I mean, there's nothing, I'm being candid about that. It wasn't trying to get away with anything, obviously.
No,
But,
I'm not.
but again, you might have asked the question anyway, so the question is there. If you're more comfortable with specifying, the units at this point, I'm sure that we can get the right numbers for you. It was also a way of, ultimately all of this is approved by the subsidizing agency with their final approval. And if it was, something that we didn't have to come back for, but it's not a major point at all.
I just didn't remember if we had talked about numbers, because the original application does set out the numbers.
Right.
We've always listed them. I didn't see that as I was just asking if we had talked about it yet.
Right. No.
It's one thing I was looking for is the number of units, and that's one of the things we've always listed out in the earlier 40Bs. So I would want the numbers put back in there.
Yeah.
That was my first substantive comment. And I went back to the original application from June or July, and it says 27 studio, 32 one bedroom, 31 two bedrooms,
Mhm.
10 three bedrooms. I mean, if that's been reconfigured, tell us. But I thought you had actually given us floor plans and everything showing these particular.
Yeah, what you just read, I think, is what we had. But, Jason, since we'll be back on January 6th, you can either chime in now, Jason, or if you want to just wait till, we fill it in.
Yeah, those are the numbers that were in the draft decision.
Yeah, nothing has changed since then.
Sorry?
Sorry, it's Jason. Nothing has changed since then.
Okay, so the numbers can go back in then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you. That wasn't prompted by Peter's change. I was looking for the numbers anyway.
No.
And I saw they were crossed out.
Yeah.
That's fine. Just an overall question, Peter, and I may be confused with the type of project. Why are we not discussing water and sewer hookup fees to this like we'd always have those discussions? Doesn't that have to be set here or no?
Yeah, they usually are set here. We do include, if I skip to the waivers, we do have as part of the approval by the zoning board, the approval to hook up and connect. with a requirement that we said at the beginning, that we, of course, comply with all the technical requirements. I don't think we addressed the question of fees, and, you know, it may be, as is your practice, that you simply want us to, you know, work out whatever we can with fees. You know, we did have a request in the initial application, at least in the preamble, but so far at this hearing, we haven't discussed that.
So I guess that's my question. Don't they have to be included in either the decision or the waivers? Maybe they're in the waivers. I didn't look back at the waivers. You know, it's a requirement, right? That the town waives 25%, or it's not a requirement, Judy?
No, I would not kid you. It's not a requirement. You know, often what happens as a compromise is, because nobody would expect that there's no fee, you know, always hope there's fee, but that the 25% affordable of the fees on those are sometimes waived, you know, fairly frequently. I don't have an empirical figure for you.
Right,
So-
but it's up to the board, though.
Okay. It had been in a couple of our decisions, not all of them, and that's what I was getting at here. Is that something that needs to be discussed ahead of time, Judy? Or if it's not in here, it's just not in here. The town charges what it charges.
Well, I think that I'm assuming what this actually is a request to waive those fees. So if it involves a waiver, then you should make a decision about it.
So is it in the waivers, Peter? That's what I'm asking.
The request is in the original waiver application, and the copying and pasting, which is all we've done so far on Exhibit B to this draft decision. I'm just flipping through to see whether that fell off or whether it's.
I see on the last page, the waivers I have, well, actually, this says updated October 10.
Yeah.
If there's a later list,
Right.
I don't have the later list. The October 10 just says waiver of requirement to obtain permits and approvals from water and sewer to connect to municipal water sewer systems. Note that the applicant will comply with all technical requirements related to municipal water and sewer systems.
Right. So, and the reason for that is in part because we haven't discussed it, so it wasn't primary in my head, but also if you go back, which you don't need to, but the way the request for waivers was included in the actual initial application, it had a preamble before the word waivers at the very start of this Exhibit B, which included the request to waive the water and sewer fees.
Okay.
I see. At the bottom of page 1 of the waivers, there's a preamble.
In the application, yes, yeah, in the application, not in this Exhibit B.
Okay, maybe do I have that Exhibit B here? I just printed it out. Yes, I do have it as Exhibit B here. I was looking at the October 10 version of waivers. Okay.
And that had the preamble.
Got it.
Correct.
That's what I was looking at. Sorry. Maybe this is easier in person.
I think you're doing fine, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to clone you and put you in a few other of the towns I work in.
Don't clone any of us. We are sheep, but don't clone us. We can all get together and, we've all probably gotten immune anyway. No, I don't think we have. I'm joking. No joke. I mean, it's terrible in Massachusetts right now.
Yeah, I know, it is.
3,000-4,000 new a day.
That's right.
That was worse than, March and April.
Very scary.
Yeah. That's my new greeting to people. Stay safe. It's weird, but that's what I say as I say goodbye.
Me too.
That's true. It's the salutation.
Because I think we are going to get through this surge, and after that's going to look good come spring and summertime, right?
Absolutely, Peter.
And we're going to be back to normal. But remember, wear my mask, be safe, and be vigilant. And it's going to be all good from come spring, summer, and fall. It's going to be back to normal. We're going to reflect on this.
We hope so. If we all do our parts. Yep, you're absolutely right. We share your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Okay, so waiver of requirement to obtain permits from the Water and Sewer Commission, is that standard? You don't get permits from them? I mean, it's part of the plan of record, right? So that's the permit?
Yes. Again, what standard is that the zoning board has the power to grant the connections. In some towns, just again, as Judy would, I think, affirm what I'm saying, just to give you the benefit of my experience, if there's some controversy in a town or questions about the sewer and things like that, I'll certainly acknowledge that zoning boards sometimes, want you to go to the particular water and sewer commissioner. But this, as a friendly 40B with the lip support of the town and all of the meetings we have, there's no indication whatsoever that there's any issue. So, it's more efficient, and it just seems to fall in line with the whole context of this particular project and the support.
I just didn't know if technically, Judy, we waive the permit requirement. I mean, it's per the plan of record, so that it takes the place of the permit, right? I'm just trying to get it straight in my head.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with Peter per se. I am used to the applicant going and getting the permit from the water department as part of the whole building permit process. So what I'm used to seeing is that if the board wants to waive the fees for the water hookups or the water permits, I've seen that done many times.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual paperwork, I'm not used to seeing that, but I'm going to defer to Peter on this.
Well, again, you know me, and we've worked together, so I'll give you a couple of additional comments as to what Judy said. In part, the large part of the paperwork on these technical things is submitting the more detailed plans, even more detailed than what you have now, to the water and sewer, and we're absolutely agreeing with that. If my cover phrase, but will comply with technical requirements is too simplified, I certainly don't mind saying that we will submit our paperwork with the plans to be reviewed by the Water and Sewer Commission and all of those details. But in terms of the power that a zoning board has, in my experience with many towns, is, again, unless there's some unique questions or controversy, that it's more often than not, in my experience, that the zoning board would approve it. And again, because I don't want you to think that I didn't acknowledge it. It might have been the last one that I did with you folks in Norton. There were particular questions with the East Main Street. I already forget the number, but with the Campanelli Thorndike at 270 East Main Street, I think it was. But as you recall, that was somewhat complicated because it was taking, I think the situation on sewer has changed also, but it was taking advantage for that project of a previous Campanelli allocation of sewer capacity from the old Norton, originally called, the Tweeter Center and all of that. And there was also, I was going to say a mile, I don't think it was a mile, but there was a substantial road in Route 123, improvement of the roadway, but also all the sewer lines. There was a big extension that was required and all of that. So it was a gazillion times more complicated.
Yep.
So in that one, I want to be fair and remind you, on that one, you did say go to the Water and Sewer Commission, and of course it was fine. On this one, it just also, because it's a lip, and also because it's a lip and the selectmen approved it, the selectmen of the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. So it wouldn't make any sense that, they approve the project, but they're not going to approve, so that's why I think it makes sense in this case.
I'm asking only technically how it's done, and that's
what
I'm going to look at a couple of our past decisions just to see how we put it there. I'm not suggesting on behalf of the board that we do anything more than probably what you're suggesting here. Just let me look at the language that we've used.
I don't see a problem with it. It's just not quite the way I'm used to seeing it, but I don't see an issue.
And that's why I was bringing it up too. But usually, okay. Yeah, we had meetings and meetings on the fees. I remember, the discussion spanned meetings, but Peter may be right. That's when we were talking about, 100 and 1,000 feet of in-street sewer improvements that the town was handing.
I
It
see.
was more relevant to those projects maybe. And by the way, 123 is never going to be paved smooth ever again in any of our lives. So we can just forget about that.
The way to slow down traffic.
What's that?
The way to slow down traffic.
Well, you're right about that, Jim. It requires me in my old car to slow down. Otherwise, the wheels will fall off. But yeah, a lot of construction going on, which is a good thing.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just a few, I guess, questions or just points. I could be wrong with this, but we belong to a regional sewer system here in Norton, I believe. So I'm not so sure how the water commissioners of Norton allocates
Well,
capacity.
because they regulate and govern hookups at the street for any house or anything that's going in. And there are hookup fees that go with every kind of hookup, and there are a whole table of them. And so they do have that say, in permitting.
Right. I guess I was thinking of capacity. I assume each town is allocated so much capacity.
Well, that I agree is subsumed in the selectmen saying we want this. I mean, I agree there. I think, it's already been determined that the town wants this project and is okay with what it will do with the sewer capacity. I'm talking about just really technical hookups and fees and things of that sort.
Yeah. And the other comment I was going to make, though, is, the water commissioners do not report to the selectmen, so they are kind of quasi
Yeah.
kind of board. So they don't.
Okay.
I do want to mention too that this application has been given to the water superintendent as well, and no comments have been made so far about capacity issues or what we're allocated to, but I can certainly go back to him and talk to him about it.
I might be interested in just asking what's his favored, procedure and something like this, if he has been on board when we've done other 40Bs.
Not as superintendent.
Right. Okay.
I'll talk to Frank.
We'll look into it. I'll look at the language and we'll come back again. I'm not trying to impede any of this. The town's already said it wants this project, so I assume they know what the sewer capacity is. But yeah, we do pass on all of this, so it's part of our decision. Okay, let me see if there are other. Please chime in with other questions, anyone on the board or Paul. I just noted some general questions I had as to specific sections or topics. And yeah, paragraph 10 on page 9 is the new language that we got from Paul and Peter, I think on Friday.
There it is, yep.
Concerning the sidewalk there. We can certainly talk about that. It didn't seem unreasonable to me, except that, there's no guarantee there's going to be a sidewalk when all is said and done. But we don't have the power to do that. We can't make the applicant guarantee that there'll be a sidewalk there.
Right.
So
that's MassDOT's authority.
Yeah. I think let's look at that language and see if that's strong enough for what we want. We'd like a sidewalk there. And in fact, the initial application that I went back to this afternoon from July says, we plan to connect it with a sidewalk or some walkway to the retail center next door. So the applicant, did bring it up, and we focused on it, something we want. So let's see if that language is satisfactory or not, before we take a vote on it. Okay.
Just real quick on what I had, because you don't, I think, see it. I had put in a time frame to say that if we use diligent efforts and we just don't know after 6 months, then our obligation ceases. And Paul, which I understand, said, well, even if you're trying hard, we want to have it last more than 6 months, the possibility, as long as we work out a way that it doesn't slow you down. And so this is intended to say, look, we have to keep making it, and without repeating what is written there, highlighted in yellow. If in 6 months, before the issuance of the last certificate of occupancy, if there's no decision yet, we'll post the bond, and that way the town is covered no matter what. And yet we can go on with renting up the project. So that's basically the consensus that Paul and I reached, understanding that obviously you had to understand it also.
Well, I actually had a question about that. Isn't there going to be one certificate of occupancy for the whole building, or does that get parsed out floor by floor? How does that work?
I have the same question, and I don't know what Norton normally does. I know in some projects that I've had, they've been able to get unit certificates of occupancy. Maybe some finish work isn't done on one of the units or something like that. So I don't know the answer, but I think it'll be covered. The sidewalk will be covered either way.
So Nick, building commissioner Nick Iafridi's on the line, but I know in other projects when I've worked with, the former building commissioner, he could issue a temporary certificate of occupancy and then a final certificate, but typically it was for the entire building. But Nick, if you have any thoughts on that.
Thanks, Paul. We can, exactly what Paul said. So what I can do is issue a temp, if need be, and then I'd like to just issue one certificate of occupancy that covers the whole building as opposed to individual certificates per unit.
Okay, so if the applicant is talking about issuance of the last certificate of occupancy, that doesn't sound like that really works.
Well, it would be the certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
But the language
Can we say
itself.
final? Can we say the final certificate? It's up.
Because we want to give it a chance, right, Paul? That's what you're saying.
Right.
We want to give it time, so.
Yeah, that's fine. If say the final is fine, just the final, yeah.
Okay. And what amount of cash surety would be appropriate here in the amount of X? I can fill in the X, but you probably don't want me to do that.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out, and I don't know if Brandon, you were able to get any further. I think you had lumped some things together, but what is typical is a reasonable estimate of the cost of the sidewalk in this case, and then usually 1.3 to 1.5 times the actual cost would be the amount of the surety.
This gets to be so painful. I mean, I remember the sureties that we had for 273. We just got rid of the last one in the spring, I think, right?
Right.
3 that lasted, a few years. But I think that's the way to handle it. The only question is, what's the value or the cost, I guess, projected cost of this stretch of. Maybe your people can tell us that, Peter. I don't know.
Yeah, since we have time between now and obviously January 6th, probably Brandon from our side will meet with your engineering or highway, whoever it would be, and figure out a reasonable cost.
Yeah, and that's similar to how planning board operates as well.
Then we would ask that to happen. And Mr. Carr, if you could, have something, not putting it all on you, it's up to the town too, of course. Just come up with some number that would be an estimate of the cost of that stretch that we're talking about there. I don't remember how many feet it is even so. That would be helpful.
Okay.
And again, communicate, that when you know it, you don't wait till January 6th, because obviously we're trying to fill in blanks, when we can. Okay, thanks. And that would be released to applicant in the event MassDOT denies the application for sidewalk. But if MassDOT approves, an applicant does not install such sidewalk within 6 months of approval, weather permitting, then surety released to the town for the purpose of installing the sidewalk later. So that's the purpose of having a bond or surety.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Number 13 on page 10.
Yeah.
Property management. Is there not going to be a property manager on site there? There's got to be an office there, right? What?
Yeah, again, the drafting that you see, that's all mine, even though, again, I can't figure out why these revisions wound up with the copy, but that's okay. And naturally, from our viewpoint, I'm sure I was trying to, preserve a little flexibility. But Jason, you can explain what you expect you folks to do, and I'm sure we can, have the language that'll satisfy you.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jason, all our properties have an on-site manager. We've on-site maintenance. So, I mean, there's no question that somebody's there. These buildings aren't left alone. So there's always somebody there during normal business hours.
Okay. I like the second part saying that, they're going to be posted the name and number of the owner or manager. That's good. But I thought for 100 units, there would be somebody there all the time. So thank you for
there will be.
confirming that.
Yeah, so we'll just put that back in. Business hours meaning weekday business hours, Jason?
Yeah, weekday business hours.
Sure. Okay,
Usually 8:30 to 5 is our normal business hours for on-site
yeah,
maintenance.
we'll clarify that.
And fire hydrants located as shown on the plan of record, that's fine. Fire department also had chimed in on other things, but I guess that's been incorporated into the record and the fire department signed off on that, right?
Yes.
Can I ask a question? And this is just something that I recently came upon, and I never even thought to ask you guys. Is there going to be any sort of security system there, like any kind of video monitor?
Yeah, there is. It's a keypad let-in system in the building, and then we put cameras on the building. And so what we've been doing is not only is it you need the security to get in the building, and once you're in the building, the security to get past the common areas into the building. So what happens is during the day, when the office is open, and let's say, and it depends on how we'll lay it out. Sometimes we have it where there's an atrium and you have to wait and then you have to be keyed in. So if there's the managers there and you don't live there, you do it. Otherwise, if we keep it open, which you do in some buildings, you can't get into the common areas, meaning we don't want somebody coming off the street and just walk into the elevators and go to the building.
Yeah.
We take that very seriously. We want everybody to feel comfortable.
I figured you did. I just never asked. And it came up recently on something that I was doing.
Sure.
Not that has any bearing on this decision. I just want
Fine, yeah. No, we want to keep it safe.
The sprinkler, paragraph 15, is that, I mean, that seems to be all the descriptive we need. You've got to comply with the state codes on that, right?
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, we don't have anything more to say. The fire department doesn't have anything to add to that, I assume.
No, I'm sure, and Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, that you've gone over that with them, or maybe Jeff is familiar with it as architect, but again, this is intended to cover whatever's required, so I don't see how you could be hurt.
Who inspects that? Is that something Nick Iafrede does, Mr. Iafrede? Does the town inspect for state code compliance?
Yes, typically, this is Brandon Carr. Typically something like this would be reviewed by the building inspector and sometimes the fire marshal as well.
Typically in conjunction. We usually do some to this extent, in conjunction with the fire marshal or the fire department together.
Gotcha. I didn't know if it was town level or if the state came in to do that, for a residential building of some size like this. Okay. And a lot of this is standard language, and much of it, I think, Peter, I've seen in earlier decisions, line for line.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to, copy from a lot of the Norton ones, and perhaps some others that I was also involved in, but I think that's what came out quite thorough. Like I said, I was doing it balanced to, make it cut to the chase for everybody.
Why put in the decision that projects shall not be gated? Does the town care?
That might have been one that I don't see how it really matters. It's not a gated community. That may have been from another not rental project. I mean, it's fine with us if that's
Take that out.
deleted. I mean, it's not the type of project that really could be gated. So
You don't want to gate up on 140. There'll be
No.
problems there,
that's for sure.
as we all on concert nights especially. Have the gates up for concerts.
There's my security camera question.
Yeah, they're right. I hadn't
Sorry
seen
about that.
I hadn't noticed that either. That's good. That's fine. Oh yeah, we talked about the school bus area, number 22. Didn't we punt on that a little bit? You weren't sure if how we would define that or where that would be, or is that actually on the plan? Does anybody remember?
Brandon, I don't know.
School bus waiting area for children, not a school bus pull-in, but a waiting area. Remember we talked about whether we could provide some sort of structure or protection, roof of some sort. And I thought we didn't know if there'd be enough room or something. Is that on the plan or not?
It is not on the plan. I honestly don't remember speaking about it, but it's something that we could coordinate. I think we have room up front to, you're talking just kind of a covering structure.
Sheltered structure.
Yeah, I think there's room to accommodate it, if we had to add it.
I thought one of us had asked about it early on, and maybe we didn't, but I thought.
No, I think you did.
And it was just, I'm talking about just a few people, size to cover a few people from elements from the rain. Whatever, I don't know what's out there, what you can size, but we've asked for that before when we have developments that we know are going to involve some kids.
We can add something.
You just see what you can do. Thank you. Okay. And well, here's an edit. Actually, I'm not sure you meant to make, Peter, but at the bottom of what I have is page 11, number 3, C3. Prior to issuance of first certificate of occupancy, cash shall be provided to town.
Yeah, the redlining is Paul's, which he discussed with me the other day. And I was surprised by it candidly, but Paul said it's absolutely insisted upon by your town treasurer that he or she, I think it's she now, will accept only cash. And it's a little frustrating candidly in that I honestly don't recall ever hearing that or having that requirement. Typically, even the subdivision under the State Subdivision Control Act, although this is not a subdivision, allows 3 types of surety at the applicant's selection. And on 40Bs, I pretty much copied that language, including letter of credit. If it was likely to be a larger amount, and we'll make sure that we think it's going to be reasonable to handle it with, even cash. Obviously, it's not cash, but it means, money as opposed to, getting a bond or something. I don't know why a letter of credit isn't acceptable, but that's purely something that Paul says the treasurer insists on.
Paul, I didn't mean to talk against something that you were advocating for the town, but that's new to me because one of the bonds we had recently for 273 was paving bond. That might have preceded your time here, but that's a requirement.
I've had extensive discussions with the treasurer for planning board items, and it comes down to management of those funds. So letters of credit, bonds aren't things that we manage. It's certainly not in her shop. And, acceptance of cash is something because then they open up the account that's aside for a specific project. Just like with it's 274 East Main.
Oh, sorry.
Like with the landscaping, that was a cash deposit. I don't know. So I wasn't here when the funding was spent for the transportation related for that, but it becomes a significant management issue. We do know that in prior with other projects in the past, bonds were issued that were cashed out before the town approved it. It just is a much more manageable for a town to deal with cash only. We certainly understand that there's that allocation can be a big thing. We had a planning board project for a solar facility. It was over $100,000 that they had to come up with, but they ultimately did. Took a while to get there, but I'm just communicating what our treasurer's position is, and I do not want to have responsibility for managing, because it would come back to my office if we don't do a cash. We are not set up to track insurance, bonding, letters of credit. Nobody else is, so.
Okay, so I guess then next question is, why would they get a certificate of occupancy if they hadn't done the top coat anyway? Isn't top coat on a one building project something that's required pre-occupancy permit? I'm not asking Paul, about Peter or.
Yeah, it's possible, and Brandon and Jason, correct me if I'm misremembering our discussion on Friday. It's possible, and part of it might be time of year. if occupancy is around the time when you can't do final pavements of the final coats of the paving. So there could be occupancy before the final paving. Say with the landscaping, it's usually a time of year, weather permitting kind of thing. And other than the sidewalk, which we already discussed, I mean, there's the road opening, which also relates to MassDOT, but obviously for the project, it's needed to go forward. So those are the components of what would have to be, bonded normally, or in this case, provide cash.
So I think, actually, to answer Tom, what could occur is, when we talked about this briefly before about final certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
There could be a temporary certificate of occupancy with a timeline on it. And then we could say, well, final, you have to do that. I mean, normally we don't move people in unless there's a final code. We don't want to do that to people, because what you have is, you have stormwater grates and sewer grates and all that kind of stuff. That's problematic for people. But if it is that kind of window of time, and it's really weather dependent that we can't pave, then we have to deal with it. But we really don't like to do that, because to us it's, people are coming into a construction site essentially. Then we got to move everybody out, and then we got to pave, and that's a real management issue. So, I mean, for us, we would, I don't want to say we're fine with final certificate and then the final code is it. It would only be for that extenuating circumstance. And I don't know how we deal with that. The cash situation is something I've never dealt with in any other town anywhere. And it's always been a letter of credit or a bond. But if we can tie the certificate of occupancy to that kind of stuff, I think that would clear it up. A lot of these things are based upon public improvements, and I can understand bonding to that nature. These are, private improvements. If we could say temporary certificate of occupancy does X and then final is this, and temporary can't exceed X amount of time, I'm okay with that.
Well, I'm just asking whether this is going to come into play, because right now it says prior to issuance of first certificate of occupancy, cash shall be provided. So I guess, what's the chance that that's going to come into play with that language? And then how much cash are we talking about?
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, what are we really talking about here?
I can speak to that. Just so, I think I did a quick cost estimate of the final top coat of the paving, and it's right around, it's a little south of $100,000.
Wow.
For the paving. And just it probably doesn't matter, but the slim chance that something like this would happen. I mean, I'm doing a hotel in Somerset, Mass. It's a little different, but like right now, they're planning on opening the hotel in 2 weeks, but it's kind of past where we want to do a final coat of paving just because of the weather. So, in that instance, we received a final, a CO contingent on us paving in the spring, just so it didn't sit empty for 3-4 months until it warmed up. Now, that would probably be like about the only instance this would come into play. And if it probably, wouldn't happen on a residential, it's a little different on a residential. Like Jason said, a hotel, you can shut down for a day. Residential, you can't really tell people they can't park in the parking lot for a day. So that's kind of the only instance that this would ever happen.
Let me put it this way, and not to interrupt you, Brandon, but if we're talking about $100,000 worth of work, which then has a multiplier of cash going up for $130,000 or $150,000 versus a letter of credit, I'll put in a final code that and make sure it's done prior to that. I mean, if that's really what we're talking about and making that an issue, I'll do the final code. I don't care. You know what I mean? Because that that is a that's a large amount of money to just have sitting to ensure we do a final coat paving. So I'd rather we could say final coat. I'll put the final coat in. If it's kind of like, oh, we're going to open in March, but hey, they're going to be done in November, I'll put the final coat in November. I mean, I'll just deal with that, and then we can come back later. I mean, at that point, when you're that far away on a project like this, really what you have coming in is you have deliveries for appliances and things like that. You're not really tied to a lot of major machinery, especially when you have one big building. So
we can talk offline, and I know that's the likelihood, but as drafted, it still gives you the flexibility in the extremely unlikely chance that you are stuck for several months when you really otherwise could be getting income from the tenants, so it's under your control. If you're able to pave it at that point and avoid that problem, then of course it all becomes moot. So, we can discuss it offline. We don't need to belabor it now.
Okay, we'll move on from the paragraph for now.
Yeah, the other thing I want to mention too that I'm picking up now, is typically when we get surety, it's for public amenities like trees, roads. And realizing this is just pavement with internal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not even sure why as I'm looking at this now, I'm questioning even the need to put this in,
Right.
because that's not typically a surety. My apologies. When I looked at this, I misread this originally.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not talking about repaving a public roadway.
No.
No.
So it's not, again, surety is typically about public amenity.
Okay.
Public improvements.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the town
Everything's
town
on.
has an interest in wanting to see it finished to.
Yeah, but that's also similar to saying we'll put put surety for putting the walls up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
So that's
That's what I was asking, whether it was going to come into play or not. So
yeah, I should have caught that. I didn't.
well, we'll talk about it, revisit it then. And okay.
And typically, again, I've never seen this in any of the planning board decisions. Surety doesn't cover putting coating on your essentially your parking lot and internal driveway.
Right.
So I would just recommend getting rid of
Take
it.
it out.
Doesn't put the town in any jeopardy.
We've done surety before when there was a phase issue. We've said you got to put the money up to ensure that phase 2 paving is going to be done, that street is going to continue on or something like that. I know we've done that.
For a street.
This
Right.
didn't strike me as, well, yeah, okay, for a street, I guess it's a public road. You're right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we're one building, one time, one shot, one opening. So I don't.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd just say we should just remove it.
Yeah.
the whole paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it really came down to it, you could pave one half, make everyone park on the other side, and pave the other half. I mean, I'm sure there's ways you can get around it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, the landscaping now. Here we go again. And this one we have taken surety for before. So are you saying here, Paul, it would just have to be cash now? According to the treasurer?
Yes.
Okay, because we had surety that we just released, 8 months ago for, maybe it was 274 Main, I don't remember.
It was, and it was cash. They had a cash deposit on their landscaping.
I thought, okay, so the word surety was used. I was thinking it was a bond.
Yeah, we also had a lot of bonds, but that might have been, as I think, Tom, you said, was because of the highway, public roadway work.
Okay. So with this, it's going to be cash again. Who says whether the landscaping is completed or not? The building inspector?
No,
Typically, I mean, unless you put something, I'm not sure that we care, but if there's no specific alternative, I would assume it's, because they're, the commissioner is enforcing conditions of this permit to the extent they relate to the construction. So,
Yeah, I know for 274, we had peer review because we had a peer review on that issue specifically. That was one of the bonds or sureties that was just released. Here we don't have peer review for landscaping itself, right?
Well, 274, you had Beta do peer review for construction review.
And we had a component just for landscaping. Here we don't have it for just landscaping. I'm simply asking who determines whether landscaping is complete or not.
Well, in the case with 274, you assigned that to the peer reviewer. As you recall, when you released those funds, you had a final report from the peer reviewer to confirm that the landscaping met the requirements of the.
Yeah, we don't employ that mechanism here with peer review at all, as far as I can see. We haven't discussed that. So that's why I'm getting to this. The question, it's going to be up to the building commissioner and the town itself to say, either you landscaped fully or you didn't.
And the planning board has done that as well, where either the building commissioner or the planning director can go out and review it too. Just depending on the complexity of the landscaping. 274 was a much, was a bigger site. It was more to it. This is, not that the simpler site in those regards.
Oh, Nick, it's on your shoulders.
Thanks.
He's up for it. You got to keep him busy anyway.
Yeah.
Study your trees, study your flora and fauna in the meantime. Okay. There's no blasting contemplated here, is there? Under any circumstance?
No, none's anticipated. No.
I mean, there's a blasting paragraph in here, right? Could we just take that out? Or do we keep it in for safety?
Again, things like that, we're fine with whichever way you want to go. As far as I knew, even when I drafted it, there wouldn't be blasting, but
I think it should stay in just for that in case. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I mean, if we did encounter something where we would have to do some blasting, it has to be done per, state and local regulations. You have to get your proper.
Okay.
It's not really waiving anything.
Then we haven't, but we haven't encountered anything yet, right?
No, I mean, from all the test holes and stuff we've done on site, we don't anticipate it, but we can't, obviously you can't entirely rule everything out until you get out there and dig the hole.
Okay. And what are authorized activities? Is that defined somewhere here, Peter? I didn't look that.
Yes, and basically, I think it covers all of the construction on the project, infrastructure, landscaping, buildings.
Yeah, I circled it, but I didn't know. I didn't get a chance to look it up as a defined term, so I will look. Okay. And then, yes, permanently responsible. This is always important. I'm at the bottom of page 13. A, plowing, sanding, snow removal, snow piled in designated locations. We do have that on the locations, right? Yes. I remember seeing it. And nobody from the town has said that snow locations aren't going to work, correct? As far as anybody remembers?
I don't think there was on this one. That wasn't my recollection, but
I don't think there was any pushback on the locations that were designated. That's what I'm asking. No.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, the annual inspection of things like the sewage and disposal, drainage. Is that something, Mr. Iafredi, that your department keeps up on? You check on an annual basis. Did they send this in? Did they send that in?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. As far as what you broke up there.
Okay. The owner is responsible on a continuing basis for certain things. One of them is annual inspection, maintenance, cleaning of all elements of drainage system, including to catch basins, drain manholes, detention basins, swales, pipelines. Is that something that you're used to inspecting on an annual basis for other ongoing projects?
No, sir. I don't inspect or haven't inspected drainage and infrastructure like that in the parking lot. We would probably do common area inspections, and the fire department would perform inspections on sprinkler system and fire alarms, but as far as drainage, no.
So how is this, for lack of a better term, kept track of or enforced?
As part of our notice of intent submission with the Conservation Commission, and as part of this submission, we submitted an operation and maintenance plan for the drainage system, and those inspections are supposed to be logged and kept on site. There's really no reporting mechanism there, but they are, you're supposed to keep them, and DP could conceivably audit your records, if something was to happen.
You don't send them, it's not routine to send in a copy when you do it to the town. I'm not trying to make work for anybody.
Typically no. Sometimes the Conservation Commission and their approval will condition that you supply your records, but it's not a typical condition, no.
Much of the rest is standard stuff. Yeah, do you have a completion date range, Mr. Cambyses? Is it going to be in the next year? I mean, the year after you get the permit? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, you're muted.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. It would be 18 to 24 months after we get our permits. So, if we get approved in January, we're going to start moving dirt shortly after that. Let's just say, let's be comfortable. March, that'll put us into September of 22.
Okay.
Or maybe, beginning of 23, something like that. So
this is a 3-year fuse, so I was just asking, that's going to be sufficient then?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Gotcha.
There's residents currently living on the property, correct, in that house?
Yeah, and per our contract, they have 60 days or 90 days till they have to leave. So.
Okay, then it refers to Exhibit B for the waivers. So those are some things that I had circled or highlighted that I wanted to ask about. Let's get to this. I'll draft. I mean, I'll do some red line edits. I might put in some other language that I've taken from other decisions, but again, I'm not trying to muck it up or make anybody work or push back on anything. And I'll get that done in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Circulate it. And Peter, I'd ask you to do the same, and other members too, if you have any suggestions on specific language or edits or anything. Do it through Paul, and Paul can, we can all circulate through Paul back and forth between the applicant and the board. I assume that's permissible. We can discuss anything that comes up at the next meeting as to what is permissible and what's not, and then we're getting very close to just having a decision. A question from Jim or where'd Dave go?
I just had a quick question. I got a point of clarification. A while back, we were talking about the, I guess, widening 140. Not really widening 140, but putting like some painting in the middle of the road that was going to make it easier to turn into the site.
Yep.
And there was talk of working with the Department of Transportation to make that happen. Somewhat similar, I think, to the sidewalk. Like you can't force them to do anything, but I don't see anything. I don't see any language speaking to that. And I can't remember how we ended up with that.
But that's on the plans, though. The plans of record, right? So
is it on the plan? I wasn't sure because it's the road, right? So
go ahead.
It's shown on our site plan, and there's a site plan within the traffic report that shows it. Well,
gotcha. Okay.
So everything has to conform to the plans as they're drawn up.
Right.
Again, there is a new set there from last week or the week before, so look those over to see. Let me ask the applicant: are there significant changes on the new plan set other than what we had asked for in our meetings?
No.
Yeah, the only changes were really administrative. What we did was we updated the title sheet to be zoning board of appeals submission, finalized the removal of that parking, the deferring of the 18 spaces, and then we just added the lighting plans to the set, so everything was in one set instead of multiple sets.
I haven't gone through the new document. Is there any reason, members, to do that now, or we can do that offline and make sure it's all similar to what was there? And I'd ask Judy to do that.
Tom, that was one of my questions real quick.
Go ahead.
Does the peer reviewer get a final shot at that document? Is he signed off on the final?
He's not involved at this point,
Yeah.
unless we want him to be and ask for that kind of review. That's why I was going to suggest we go through it and make sure. I'm sure they're not, swapping out pages to fool the town, but we have to do some due diligence to look at it. Judy?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, typically, if there are conditions that you want the peer reviewer to recommend, those would be provided in writing, and it would end up in the decision. And so kind of at my level, Paul's level, somebody's level, in any case, in our circle, we would kind of go through and make sure that those conditions actually made it into the draft. I can't think of a time when I've had a peer reviewer look at a permit, but I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just usually they've given us what we need by the time we get to this point.
I think we've kind of gone through that process. That's my understanding. That's my view at this point, that we have the changes in mind, and short of swapping out, suddenly we have a skyscraper appearing there rather than a 4-story. And we can certainly look at that, and I'd ask Judy and Paul and the rest of us to take a look at that, just to make sure it's all what was there before with just minor modifications.
And the
I think we
applicant,
could do that.
the applicant has responded to all of the challenges that the peer reviewer brought up. So I don't see any lingering issues on that.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't really saying issues. I was more saying that everything was the same as the previous set of plans, and everything was talked about incorporated in it.
But that's kind of what we can do that.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying we can do as a board, and Paul certainly and Judy.
Yes.
So
yeah, my review through the plans, they addressed it, but please, everyone take a look at it. I'll re-review it, and we just want to make sure it's just, reflecting what the boards and the applicant have agreed to.
Yep.
And Peter, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just two quick things. They're in the findings of fact, page 4, numbers 13 and 14.
Of this decision?
Yes, it's my version, which is, I'm looking at Paul's, page 4, numbers 13 and 14. Their findings.
Got it. I'm there.
So 13,
Oh.
I'm going to strike because I thought that we had something, but Brandon has told me that, and I guess I knew this, but I had forgot. We're simply not in one of the mapped habitats, so we didn't need any litter or anything. So just, it doesn't affect any of the draft conditions, but 13 we're going to delete because we don't have it. There was no need for it. On 14, Brandon, I think we're just waiting for the, I think maybe we just need to fill in the date, because we did get an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation from the Concom, right?
Correct. Yeah, I have that date.
Yeah, I think you gave it to me and I might have just forgot to put it in, so I'll just add that. That's the only thing that I wanted to mention.
I didn't look. What is your note? It says PD1. Is that your note?
That's me. That was when I saw it. I didn't know when that was issued.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll fill that in.
There's nothing from conservation holding you up at this point, right?
I don't believe so.
No, we had I hopped on this meeting we had a conservation hearing earlier tonight. And we have 1 or 2 minor issues we're wrapping up with their peer reviewer, with some of the drainage, just the way, configuration of one of the locations of the section of the pond, pretty minor things. We're replying to them later this week, and we are continued to I think it's January 11th conservation hearing. They should be voting on it.
Okay, but is that changing anything that we're looking at potentially? Are you going to have to change our plans after that?
that's kind of like the chicken or the egg thing about like what board goes first, because there are going to be some minor changes to the drainage design, nothing consequential. Peter, I was actually going to ask you that question after the hearing. There will be some minor updates to the drainage from what we submitted, a week or two ago.
So the answer to that is, and as far as I know from discussing this with Brandon, such minor changes would be covered by the provision that all the final plans have to be submitted before the issuance of the building permits. And, that's routine, and you would have your peer reviewer look at it at that point. So, if anybody looking at them says, oh my God, this is something which we really think needs to go back to the board, then we would have to, but I think that's very unlikely.
So that final peer review, though, is not written into this, is it, at this point? Or are you talking about conservation's peer review?
No, separate from conservation. I believe that I did say, and I just had it located, and now I'm looking for it again. But in terms of the submission of the final plans, typical, I can't find it when I want it. Hold on one second.
That was the language I was looking for in the other decision earlier, too. So I'm going to,
it's on page 10, number 18.
Okay.
Final set of engineering and site plans for review. No, I did put it in there. I was hoping I did, and I did. A final set of site and engineering plans which shall include but not be limited to the stormwater plans and calculations.
Sorry, what number?
It's 18A. It starts at the bottom of page 10.
Got it.
And it does say to be submitted to the building commissioner and the board, and for review by the peer review consultant.
Got it. Okay, that's what I was looking for, and I didn't spot it earlier, so thank you. Okay, so that answers a couple of our questions right there.
Yeah.
Hey, just to go back to Dave's comment real quick, I took a look at your plans, the PDF version, and I didn't see anything in there regarding the new striping on 140. I do remember seeing it in some form or fashion. I think it was probably in the traffic review. So I know you guys have put out there that it's going to be, you're going to have turn lanes and all that, but it's just those plans.
I actually just looked at stuff related to that too the last 2 minutes. So my intent was that we did reference Jack Gillen, your traffic consultant study, or rather not study, I'm sorry, review letter in the findings of fact. And I'll double check. I might have forgotten to carry over, following his recommendations on that striping, I might have forgotten to carry it over into a condition. It's stated as a fact that we'll do what he said. But again, I'll just make sure that it comes up where it should, but that's how it's being covered.
Okay, but Jim, thank you for correcting me, because I thought it was in the actual plan set, so we'll make sure that's...
Yeah, on page 4, there's an outline of the existing stripage. I think they actually have a spot where there's yellow lines and for like no driving, but nothing to indicate the new turning lanes, which I know they've said they're going to do.
Yeah, it's that left turn lane. Yeah.
So that can be integrated somewhere, but good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's make a note of that too. Okay. Any other questions, Board or Paul or Judy?
No, sir.
Anything else from you, Peter, or your team?
I'm good. Thank you.
Let's pass. Peter, I don't know if you want to make a few fill-ins first, since you have some dates to fill in and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll fill in what I can, Paul, if you don't mind, if I, pass the torch to you on the dates of the actual hearings. I'm sure I can go back and figure it out, but I think most of the other stuff is for me to fill in with Brandon and stuff, so that we'll do that.
Okay. And yeah, the dates of the hearing, our minutes are actually up to date for the first time in about a decade. So actually, they're not going to be after tonight. So I didn't do November's. Sorry, Nicole.
But for now,
anyway.
they're up to date.
Uh-oh. Sorry?
But for now, they're up to date.
For now, for the next few minutes, they are, right? Till the next segment of our meeting, where I get to say that I don't have the November meeting minutes. reviewed. So nothing else for tonight. Our next meeting is January 6th. We'll think we're gearing for a final document either then or, I mean, the time runs out 2 weeks after that. So we're going to have to either deal with it then or ask for another just couple of weeks. Peter, that's nothing that's bothersome, I assume, to your client. I mean, we're going to get this done in January, whether it's on the 6th or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly hopeful that it can be 100% signed, sealed, and delivered. But if it's something that we, have to work with you guys, then I'm sure we would. I mean, I'm just not concerned about it.
Okay. And to the board, what we've done, when we get real close like this, if we have to, I'm not putting us out there to the extent I don't have to, of course, but if we had to schedule another meeting at the end of January, just on, this one matter, because we needed to finalize the document after the 6th, then get it in front of us and just all vote on it, I'd suggest that may be in our future, but that's what we've done before. We haven't done, if it's not in form final on the 6th, then it will be within days after that, and we'll get together just to take a vote on everything. And we vote, if you look at the decision, we vote on things, well, I don't know if we vote on them piecemeal or if we do it all together. I think we took piecemeal votes before. I'll ask counsel or Judy the best way to do that. But we vote on certain things in chunks and then vote on the whole decision. Judy, yes?
Yeah, I've seen it done that way. I've seen one vote. I've seen it taken in pieces. I think it's really whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. But there are specific votes within the document that we have to fill out. So.
And that's what you should do. I agree.
Then make a point of looking at that, members. Yes. That way, if there's something that's bothersome to anybody, I mean, it all has to pass in order for the decision to go through, but sometimes it's easier taking in the pieces. Other than that, is there anything else for tonight, or should we have a motion to continue to January 6th at, say, I don't know if is there anything else that's come up, Paul or Nicole, aside from the continuance from earlier tonight?
We'll have 253 Mansfield coming back.
Or not.
Probably.
Right? We don't know.
Nothing new. Yeah. At this point.
So I would suggest making this for 7:10.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue this meeting till January 6th at 7:10.
I'll second. Jim will second.
Mr. Wren, roll call vote. How do you vote on the continuance?
Yes.
And Jim?
Yes.
And Mr. Noel votes yes for the record. Thanks very much. We got through a lot, and we're getting close. Let's keep the email communications going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a very nice holidays to everybody, and stay safe, as they say.
You too.
Thank you. Same to all of you. Appreciate
Thanks, everyone, and we are in this together, and we will get through this, and we'll be back to our normal lives either spring, summer, or fall.
Very good.
Thank you. Take
Good
care.
night. Happy
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Paul, David, and Tom, and Michelle, and Jim, and Alan, and the gang. Good night, everyone. Good night, Nicole.
We're not
I thought
done.
you were actually setting up with some final agenda items there.
We probably should adjourn.
Yeah, we didn't close the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jim,
Yeah,
I think we completed it, but, well, I think you all should vote on continuing the 253 to January.
Do you want to get Tom on real quick? I think we should probably get him back on.
Yeah, let me,
I mean, we could do it without him, but I think we should get him on.
all right, let me.
He's already in his car halfway home.
I get a more pressing matter. My Surface Pro isn't charging. Oh, boy.
And I ran into that last night when my charger and not the charger, but the power cord, and I think the tip got nicked. I wasn't charging properly.
Okay.
You're still connecting. Audio.
Yeah. So we.
Oh,
Thanks for looking that up, by the way, Jim, there on the striping there.
yeah, no, I had that same kind of question, and I'm glad you caught it too.
Sorry about that. I was thinking I was signing off good instead of just ending that hearing. Well, that's going to be embarrassing on record.
We almost finished it without you, but I thought it was probably a better idea we get
Go
you
right
back.
ahead. No, do it.
No.
Okay.
Needed to continue to 253.
Yes, right. 253 is on the agenda, and we have a request to continue it. So have they said, Paul, that they are coming back with something for January, or we don't know?
They have, but we still, they have not. They were supposed to be providing us a check for the peer review, but they haven't yet. They did say they'd like to go on for January 6th, but that's the last I've heard from them. I did ask the question about the 180 days because theirs is also at the end of, well, they've been extending it. And I believe, I have to look back, but I believe their continuances have also dealt with the 180 days, but I need a confirmation from her. And what I've asked is, would you do it the 180 days from the January 6th meeting? But I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay, because Judy just explained it's from the opening of the hearing. So can we go back and look in the minutes as to when we opened the hearing? I remember one was, or were they the same night even?
It was the same night.
Same night.
No, it was the week before. What was a week
Oh, you're
before
right.
the?
You're right.
But they were running parallel tracks for a short while.
Right, because I think we specifically broke them up in July. We said, oh, we'll take one night and one next week or something.
Right.
So
But the 253 hasn't come back since the whole.
But I think to be technical, we have to, with it, if we've opened the meeting at a certain date, let's find out when the 180 days is and tell them, look, you're going to have to give us something in writing, extending it to, sure, July 1st. We're going to have to, or we'll have to take a no vote. We don't want it to be constructively approved. That's all. So let's find out right away when.
I've already sent her something. So. But I think you should just continue that till the 6th. And one thing, we do need a couple more dates from you all because I believe we only go as far as January.
Yeah. Again, my thought was wrap things up talking wise on the 6th, close the hearing, and then have a decision, that we're just dotting the I's on after that, whether they're willing to wait till a February meeting without complaining too much. I mean, I don't see the great rush in them tonight. Otherwise, I'd say I could come back, 3 weeks later on the 27th or something, 3 weeks after the 6th. But I'm just putting that out there just because when we close the hearing, we then have, I think, 30 days to actually, get the decision and sign it. And we all are supposed to sign, at least that's the way council used to have us do it. She asked all the members to sign. I don't know why, but that's what council had recommended last time. So we'll have to ask Amy about that as well. But, the date, I could keep January 27th open, which is 3 weeks after that early January meeting, and then something in February. Go ahead, suggest.
I'm pretty wide open right now.
If we make it, right?
Exactly.
So, and a special meeting, I wouldn't have to do other things. I would just suggest just to finalize this or to take the final votes or, something like that. So beyond that, what is February 10th or the 17th, maybe 17th
I'm looking right now.
or the 24th. I don't know when school vacations are, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter to me. I'm pretty open.
so what do you want?
Well,
I'm good
the
either.
17th of February. That'll be 2 days after my birthday.
Let's do that.
I don't know why I'm doing that to myself, but yeah.
You're dropping a hint for presents. I understand.
That's right.
So
All right, the 17th.
let's say that, let's say the 17th. I mean, you could say the 27th too, Paul, but I would really want to do it, just 3 weeks just for that one thing.
We can always just put a hold on that date, put a bookmark on everyone's calendar.
Fine.
The 27th, the bookmark on the 27th, and then for sure the 17th.
That's fine.
I mean, I think you guys are really close on the 195, and we'll just hammer away at, my goal is to get it to you in final. But obviously it's your call.
Well, but yes, I'm just going to be adding a few paragraphs that I've found in the old, decisions. That's all. And I didn't have a chance to do that before tonight, unfortunately. But time is limiting me too, so I'm not going to go and hack it all up. I just want to post some language. So, but we'll be able to do that offline probably and pass it back and forth so that we can just talk about the changes,
right?
Whether ours or theirs on the 6th, and then.
Yeah, I am planning to be off the week between Christmas and New Year's.
What? It's outrageous.
I know. Radical. Not that I'll be doing much, but hiking, projects around the house.
Still be shoveling snow.
All right, so we can go to the 17th, and that'll give us some time there too. So, but we didn't. Can you all vote on that continuation on 253?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that that's also.
I agree. So we're discussing 253 Mansfield Ave. They've asked us to continue one more time. I've asked Paul, Nicole to find the date we first opened the hearing so we can make sure that we don't go past that date and have a constructive approval. So is there a motion to continue that to January 6th at 7:15?
I'll make a motion to continue it to January 6th at 7:15 p.m.
I will second it as much as I don't want to, but I will second it.
There's a second discussion. I'm going to ask Jim why.
I feel like we're starting to get to the point where they're just continuing in hopes for other things.
Well, it's time to deal with it now because we're going to approach the 180 days, so we'll have to do something with it.
Right.
So, okay.
I was comfortable with them before exploring another option. I'm good with that. But now that that option's closed, why are we continuing to continue at this point?
Well, but we only have this one more to do.
Right.
We got to find out the date and what they're going to do. So, okay.
Right.
So all those in favor, I'm sorry, Mr. Wren, are you in favor of continuing?
Yes.
Mr. Tenori is
Yes.
going to vote yes?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Noel votes yes as well, without disagreeing with you, Jim. Okay. Is there anything else? I didn't look at the minutes, so we're now off schedule. Is there anything else, Paul?
No, we don't have any bills, so.
Okay.
You guys just have a wonderful holiday.
You too.
You too, everybody.
Have a
And,
good day, everyone.
you too, Peter.
Hi, Dave, Jim, Tom, Paul, and Ellen, and Charlene, and Shane, and Nicole. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Right.
Is there a motion to adjourn so I don't do it twice in one night?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Mr. Wren, how do you vote? Adjourn at 9:23?
Yes, John, 9:23, yes.
Mr. Tenori, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Noel votes yes again. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night, everyone.